Welcome to Relive with Ruth.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Dov, nice to meet you guys. I'm a medical doctor, so I subspecialised in general medicine, which is like an overview of all systems, and also nephrology, which is a study of kidney health.
What was your first experience with a mental illness?
I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder quite a few years ago now, and my first encounter with mental illness was actually during year 12. I had what's called a hypomanic episode. For people that haven't heard of it, it's basically an elevated episode. I wasn't sleeping very much, maybe 2-3 hours a night. I had pressured speech, I was talking really rapidly. I had a lot of sort of ideas and plans. I was spending a lot of money on things that weren't necessary. Became quite irritable and aggressive at times. It's kind of like being on an adrenaline high always, so for months and months on end. And it doesn't really burn itself out.
Did you have any insight into your disorder? Did you realise that you were suffering from bipolar?
I think during that episode in year 12 I didn't. So one of the symptoms of being hypomanic, which is just under manic, and manic is even more extreme than what I just described, is that you lose insight. And I think at the time, because I'd never had any experience with mental illness before, I didn't realise that something was wrong. I actually felt really good. I felt really positive about myself. I felt really confident.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I was sort of finding myself, 17 years old, that sort of thing.
So if someone would have approached you and said, you need help, would you have listened? Did you listen?
I didn't think that there was a problem, so I wouldn't have sought help at that stage because I didn't think that anything was wrong. I just thought I was really happy and confident.
How did you eventually come to see that you were suffering from bipolar?
So after I finished year 12, I went on schoolies with some friends, and I experienced the other side of bipolar disorder, which is depression. I was very, very teary. Everyone was socialising and partying, and I didn't want to do any of that. And normally being quite an extroverted person, I suddenly was very withdrawn. I remember feeling quite hopeless, just really, really sad, but for no real reason and no real trigger. And that sort of became more prolonged. I remember getting sort of somatic pain, so like tummy pain and headaches and things like that, feeling very tired all the time. And then when I went to enroll in university, I found it extremely difficult to concentrate on the lectures, which is not like me. And I actually had to stop university at that point because I couldn't concentrate. After this had been going on for a period of time, I realised that something wasn't right. I just felt sad all the time and just could not bring myself out of that pit of despair. And that's what led me to seek help for the first time. The actual diagnosis of bipolar disorder didn't come to a few years later when I actually had another episode of hypomania, and then they sort of identified that there was that pattern of up, down, up, so didn't get the label straight away. And it's interesting, I think labels have different powers. They can be seen as negative things to be labelled with an illness because it detracts from seeing the person. I kind of had the opposite effect. I found that having a label actually brought me a lot of relief because it made sense of, a roller coaster ride that I'd been going on through my life that really didn't have an explanation up until that point. When I tell people about my illness, they're often quite surprised because I'm very high functioning. I've got a very high functioning job. I'm also a director of education at my hospital network, and I've got some very high up positions of responsibility. So for people that don't know my past history, I just present as a high functioning, seemingly together person. There's a lot of preconceived ideas about mental illness. Sharing openly, it helps to shatter a lot of those myths and start conversations like this where you talk about openly what it actually means to you on a day-to-day basis, how it affects your life.